women just weren't taken seriously. And I don't know why.
For the last 75 years, Formula One has been recognised as the pinnacle of motorsport. It's the place every young motorsport fan aspires to end up, but for 75 years, there's been a problem. It's been incredibly male-dominated. Formula One hasn't seen a female driver in almost 30 years, and it hasn't seen a British one in over 40, and her name was Davina Galissa.
Now, most athletes, when they retire, either carry on in some managerial capacity, become trainers, or quietly get out of the sport altogether. Not so, I should say, Davina Galissa.
Davina Galissa never took the easy route in life, pushing herself to be the best athlete she could from a very young age. She pursued a career in skiing and, aged only 19, achieved her dream by participating in her first Olympic Games at Innsbruck in 1964. She competed in downhill skiing and the slalom, and went on to represent the United Kingdom at 3 further Olympic Games. And at Grenoble in 1968, in Sapporo in 1972, she even captained the British ski team. However, skiing took a backseat for Galissa in 1976 after accepting an invite to race in a celebrity auto race. Galissa surprised everyone with her driving talent and ended up being taken under the wing of John Webb and Nick Whiting, who entered her in the British Shell Sport International Group 8 Series in 1976, driving a Surtees TS16 Formula One car. And after a lot of promising showings on numerous outings, she worked her way up through numerous series, eventually finding herself in Formula 2, and impressing enough to get a few names in Formula 1 giving her a shot. And at the 1976 British Grand Prix, Galissa awaited her first real taste of Formula 1 racing.
This is Brands Hatch, just outside London in the Kent countryside. And today is British Grand Prix Day, the biggest day on Britain's motorsport calendar.
Cars were lined up and the grid was ready. The 1976 British Grand Prix was about to begin, but Galissa wasn't there. Her qualifying appearance was notable, but for all the wrong reasons. It was the first time in 13 years that a car had entered a Formula 1 Grand Prix using the supposedly unlucky number 13. So it proved for Galissa. She failed to qualify for the race and had to forfeit her entry. She would attempt to qualify for 2 more Formula 1 Grand Prix, but wouldn't start them either. Unfortunately for Galissa, that was the last time a British female driver would be seen racing in Formula 1. Or was it?
Welcome to Hockenheim, the site of some of the most defining moments in motorsport history. Over 80 years of drama has played out on this ever-evolving roller coaster of a racetrack, and now it's about to host another iconic moment. Women's motorsport is taking centre stage. And behind me, 18 pioneering drivers, all set for the race of their lives. Welcome to W Series.
On the 10th of October 2018, the W Series officially launched. It had the backing of a number of prominent members of the motorsport community, including former F1 driver David Coulthard, engineer Adrian Newey, and Davina Galissa herself. This groundbreaking women's racing series had a serious ambition. It wanted to change the face of motorsport as we know it. It set out to go against the stereotype of motorsport being an all-male series and give female racers a platform to show their skills on and try and catch the eye of teams in the big leagues at the pinnacle of motorsport in Formula 1. And well, it worked.
All eyes though now on Jamie Chadwick. She's going to cross the line. Here she is, our W Series champion. The home hero makes it stick and she becomes the first ever W Series champion.
Jamie Chadwick secured the first ever W Series championship following success after success. Chadwick showed a lot of incredible natural talent, enough in fact to be seen by some faces in Formula 1. And at the end of 2018, Chadwick signed a contract with Williams, making her the first British female to do so since Davina Galissa 40 years prior. Williams are one of the oldest teams on the Formula 1 grid and the second most successful behind Ferrari. With a history spanning more than 40 years and 9 Constructors' Championships to their name, they're not a bad team to be associated with. But she isn't quite there yet. She is still only their development driver, and if she wants a realistic look at a permanent race seat with them, she's going to have to really prove herself and show the doubters what she's made of. But why are there still doubters of females in motorsport? Surely their smaller and more lightweight natural build would make them perfect candidates for a seat in Formula 1 these days. Well, I managed to speak to Bill Sisley, one of the most prolific karting scouts of the last 45 years, responsible for talents such as Johnny Herbert, Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton, to find out exactly why women aren't coming through the ranks as much as men do.
I'm Bill Sisley. I've been involved in motor racing for 50 years. Formerly, I was the owner of Butmore Park Kart Circuit, which was really the breeding ground for most of the current British racing drivers, including Johnny Herbert, obviously now retired, Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button, and there's lots of young drivers now who will be British Formula 1 stars of the future that we trained at Butmore. I had a school there, the Bill Sisley Kart Racing School, which has trained many, many champions in karts and cars. I was approached by someone who wanted me to consult on a circuit in Wigan, a Three Sisters circuit, and I agreed to do that. And now I'm running my kart school there on a consultancy basis, and we're training young drivers there. I really am a talent spotter, really. I watched Lewis Hamilton in his first ever kart race. Karting is my expertise, so I have a keen interest in all motorsport.
Well, it's great to be able to talk to you, Bill. If you don't mind, could I start off by just asking you, why do you think women haven't made as much of an impact on motorsport and Formula 1 over the years in comparison to men?
I think one of the reasons is money. I'm sure you know that motor racing, even from karting level, and they start at 16 cars now, is a very expensive sport. You're talking about £60,000 or £70,000 a year for a 6-year-old, which may sound amazing to you, unless you know the motorsport world. And to do karting seriously at 13, 14 and to race in Europe is £100,000 a year plus. A lot more than that if you do it very seriously. So before you can get to cars, you're talking considerable sums. They have to find sponsors. And for some reason, girls find it more difficult to find that money than boys. And I don't know the answer why. So money is a real barrier for boys and girls, but it seems to be more of a barrier for girls. There is also this sort of macho thing that motorsport is a male sport, and I've dealt with lots of parents, and remember I've run my school since 1974, so there's been many thousands through the school. But there's always this thing that the boy did the motor racing and the girl rode the horses, and which is a ridiculous thing, but it's always been this intent that it is a male-dominated sport. Girls just didn't do motorsport, which is crazy. So that's another reason. It's just this inbred thing that men did karting and then did cars and girls didn't do it. But physically, there's no reason. Women just weren't taken seriously. And I don't know why. It's a crazy thing, but it's all changing now. So that's all I can say. And that's the two main things, money and attitude, that stop girls actually going to the top. But it is changing, so yes.
So I'd be interested to know, do you think there's some sort of general bias in motorsport toward men? Do you think that could be why women struggle to get sponsorship and things?
Yeah, I do. I think there has been this bias that they didn't take women seriously, quite wrongly. You know, and I say I've trained lots of women aged between 6 and 16, and skill-wise, they are just as skillful as men. There's no difference in skill levels. Why should there be? There's no, you know, they're just as smart as boys. In fact, they're smarter than boys. But if you think about the way that women's sport's changing, and you're talking to someone who's got 4 granddaughters, so I didn't know what women's sport's like, and they're all keen sports girls, as it happens. Women's football, women's cricket, it's all been transformed, hasn't it, in the last 5 years, 10 years. And now women's motorsport's been transformed with the W Series. It's taken a long time in motorsport, hasn't it, to get to this point. So maybe in the next 5 years, we will see a Formula 1 driver coming from the UK, you know, who's not now. And I'll be the first person to cheer.
So what do you think of new things being introduced, such as, you know, the W Series and things like that? Do you think that it's these kind of things that we need to suppress that bias and give women the opportunity in motorsport that they deserve?
Definitely, without question. I mean, I watched some of W Series races last year, and they were very, very competitive. I mean, some of the drivers came through Buckmore Park, like Alice Powell and Jessica Hawkins. They were very good karters. Yes, I think at first people felt it wouldn't be competitive, but it certainly was competitive. And obviously, Jamie Chadwick won, and now she's involved with Williams, and that's the right way to go. And I'm sure it'll get even more competitive this year. So yes, it will. It definitely gave it credibility. So yes, that was a very, very good move.
So, do you agree that there is a change coming in motorsports? In the sense that women are taking part, and there are more women now in motorsport than there ever have been.
I would say that in the karting world, which is really my area of expertise, the percentage, it always used to be, I'm sure the UK Motorsport can confirm the exact percentage of licence holders, but the percentage of men against women was about 95% to 5%. I think that's slowly swinging. More women are taking up the karting sport, which eventually will mean more girls are going to go into cars. So it is swinging around.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to me today, Bill. That has been a brilliant insight.
Lovely. Lovely.
That'd be
Cheers,
brilliant. Thank you very much. All right, cheers, bye.
Bye.
See ya. So, after talking to Bill, I think I can take a couple things away from that conversation. I think first and foremost, I should make clear that my question of why are there still doubters of females in motorsport has no real or right answer. There shouldn't be. Unfortunately, motorsport has always been a very elitist sport aimed at solely the white middle-class man. In the entire history of the sport, it has only seen one black driver, and that driver is Lewis Hamilton. When Lewis came into the sport, there was so much hate and racism aimed at him because he didn't fit the norm. But now look at where he's taken his career. The young boy from the small town of Stevenage, who compares his life to Cool Runnings, whose father had to work 3 jobs just to see him through the start of his career. He's the man that won't take no for an answer, and is now widely regarded as one of the greatest this sport has ever seen, with 6 world titles, and I'm sure a 7th on the way. Formula One is an ever-evolving sport, and we are seeing change in the ranks. Right now we have the youngest grid of drivers this sport has ever seen. Teams are taking gambles on unproved talents just to give them a chance. We have women being signed to teams as test drivers, something never before seen. And I'm sure things will continue evolving. And who knows, maybe in the next 10 years, we'll be hearing this.
And as she crosses the line, we see Jamie Chadwick becoming the first ever female Formula One world champion. This is a day that I am sure will go down in the history books.